All right, so let's have that conversation here in studio. Joining me right now is Martin Andati. Thank you so much for coming. And also we have Professor Michael Wainaina. Thank you for coming on NewsCentre. So I'll ask you the first question that I've just asked our viewers. Do you think that signing of this deal will actually guarantee unity? Martin?
The history of MOUs is very interesting in this country, starting with the infamous one of 2002. Of course, now, because of the experience of 2002, and then the MOU of Kibaki and Kalonzo in 2007, at least we managed now to change the law, and the MOUs are now deposited with the Register of Political Parties.
Right.
So they have some legal backing. But you know, there was also the MOU of Kalonzo, Wetangula and Raila, the one of 2013. And there have been issues. And you can see Kalonzo has been raising issues and insisting he should be the flag bearer because it is a hint on that MOU of 2013.
Right.
So if the political will is not there, then it becomes very difficult. Because for you to create the post of Prime Minister, you know, you are basically changing the structure of government. And that will mean you have got to go into a referendum if they win power. Yeah, so that will pose a bit of a challenge. Two, there is the fourth principle. What do you give him?
Chief Minister?
No, the third one is the one who becomes Chief Minister. So the other one becomes the Deputy Chief Minister. What does he become? Maybe Speaker. But you know, Speaker is only premised on winning a majority because you cannot be elected Speaker. You are elected based on the numbers that they have in Parliament. So it means they really have to work hard and make sure that they win enough seats for them to get the fourth principle becoming the Speaker, either of the National Assembly or of Senate.
Of the Senate.
Yeah.
Professor, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you at least think that this agreement will really mean that, you know, they are united and will not see any more drama moving forward?
The nature of politics is that there is nothing that is guaranteed. The nature of Kenyan politics is even gloomier than the nature of politics generally. Yeah. These people are not new to backstabbing each other. There is nothing that brings them together apart from the desire to grab power. Yeah. And if you are not going to be assured of power, why would you guarantee anything? Like Andati has said, the history of MOUs in this country is not a good one. One would actually say that the Kenyan political graveyard is littered with the bones of mutilated MOUs. I do not think that this is going to be different because, like they say, there is no honor among thieves. If we are going to agree between me and you, there has to be a modicum of trust, a modicum of honor, and goodwill, that we are getting this in good faith. Right. It is important, though, to ask ourselves, in this whole discussion about MOUs, and I like the way you're describing it, you're saying it is a power-sharing deal. And the question is, what's in it for the people? One of the things that the political class always forgets is that politics is about the people. They think that politics is about them. And I think there is feeling in this country, and it was very well demonstrated during the registration of voters, that Kenyans are starting to ask themselves, what is this drama worth?
Yes.
Why should we register? Why should we vote? Why should we wait for an MOU? So my prognosis on this is that whether it holds or not, it is irrelevant because there is nothing in it for the people. There is everything in it for the guys.
Wow. Do you think that with the creation of this particular chief minister position, that everybody's going to be happy, you know, in this coalition?
Andati has asked a good question. What do you give the fourth guy?
Yes.
Okay, what do you give the fourth guy? And the challenge with the political class is this. They imagine that, like I've said, that politics is about them.
But isn't it us who made it like that?
No. So they are now creating. They're now creating four positions, okay,
Right.
or there's need to create 4 positions.
Right.
What is going to happen in 2022 when there are 6 of them who want positions, or when there are 3 of them who want positions?
Yeah.
We do need a political class that makes decisions that are in the best interest of the people and not in the best interests of the political class.
All right.
Yeah.
Martin, what do you have to say about that? Is everybody going to be happy with this particular arrangement?
Well, you know, in the formations which are being bandied around, Wetangula looks like he is lost out, because in none of the formations is he featuring prominently as either a presidential candidate or as a running mate. So that creates a bit of a complication for him. You know, the challenge is there are 2 of them from the Luhya nation. And 2, even if the principals are happy, will their supporters buy into it? Because the supporters of Raila believe that he's the best. And he stands for reform. That's what they say. So if you bring in Musalia and make him the candidate, Raila would really have to work on them to agree to support Musalia. If you bring in Kalonzo, then the other 3 guys have got to really work to support, to convince their supporters. Because, you know, it's not just about telling them that we want Jubilee out. Yeah. Because they have made the tribes believe that the only way the tribal problems will go away is by helping them get power. So you can now not go back and tell the same people you are promising that I'm going to deliver power, that now it has not worked. So let me just be a flower girl here. Then once we get there, we will be able
We'll see
to
what
share. You know?
happens.
So that poses a bit of a challenge. And I think that is why you can see they are buying time and trying to see how do we manage this process so that the followers and the supporters don't... because the supporters of these guys will not go to Jubilee. That is not going to happen.
Right.
But what will happen is some of them might decide not to vote.
Not to vote entirely.
If there is voter apathy in their strongholds, it benefits Jubilee by default.
All
so that will really have to be worked on. Then the segmentation of the voters. You see, the old generation is still talking about the tribal arrangements, and they are loyal to the tribe. But the young guys who have finished school the other day, they don't care so much about tribe. What they are interested in is they want jobs, they want opportunities, and they love money. So they want
they want the good things.
They want the good things, and
yes.
the good things come. They come out of money,
okay.
and they know it.
Right.
So you know this thing. If you go telling them, you know, the cause, they don't even know what that thing called cause or struggle. If you tell them we have been in the struggle, they ask you went to a school called struggle. So
they don't really understand.
They don't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Professor. Let's talk about the criteria that we're hearing that they probably will use to come up with who's going to be the flag bearer. There's this delegate system, but probably it won't work because it's a bit tribal. You have ANC and Ford Kenya fighting for the same seat, but then you also have the round table discussions where they'll sit and say maybe it's, you know, or popularity. What do you think they're using as a criteria to come up with who's going to be the flag bearer?
Domination. Domination. Who can dominate the group? Who can bamboozle the group? There is nothing like consensus in politics.
No?
Politics is about power. And politics is about creating your own space and then forcing everybody else to toe your line. All these things that are being bandied about in terms of methodologies are nice for the headlines.
Okay.
Okay, they, you know, you pick up and they are nice for the purposes of giving something a name.
Yes.
And for the purposes of giving the process some civility.
Yes.
This is not a civil process. If it was going to be a civil process, we should have seen the parties from which these people are coming from having very civil processes themselves in terms of democracy, in terms of nominations. You have had people, prospective aspirants, saying that there will be no free and fair nominations in all the parties. Okay, so people are already defecting, people are already looking at their options because they know that when the rubber meets the road, it is the same old politics of ethnicity, impunity, and mediocrity. So in the meantime, they are going to give you nice words like delegates, they're going to give you nice words like consensus, just to keep the people guessing and to keep the people thinking that there is something that is going on. But ultimately, the person who will get the ticket is a person who can dominate the rest.
Let's talk about Musalia Mudavadi talk about domination. He's the one who's really the brainchild of this NASA coalition now. What happens to him if he's not the flag bearer? Are we likely to see a fallout? We've also had Kalonzo, could be decamping if he's not, the chosen one.
I don't see Musalia walking out. The only issue is how he'll manage to convince the Luhya nation to come on board with him not being the flag bearer. Because the expectations are he has psyched the Westerners into believing that he is going to be the candidate. But even if those guys were to do a nomination today, who can beat Raila Odinga? In all honesty. Even if they just called their supporters in Nairobi here and said that you marshal the numbers. Of course, at times Raila uses very crude means. Even when it's obvious he's going to win, you'll still get his supporters to intimidate them. But even if they were just to do a free and fair nomination in Nairobi or wherever, he still beat the rest of the guys hands down. Look at even the polls. All the polls, he is leading. So naturally he'll tell you, look, and of course he's the oldest. And, this is realistically his last chance to have a serious stab at the presidency. And of course, he's managed to put the narrative out there that his victory was stolen in 2007 and then 2013. So he believes that they support him, he gets one term, they share power, then he cleans the mess, then after that he can hand over the baton. But
is he the best candidate? He could be the most popular candidate.
Raila is the most popular, but in terms of being the best, I have reservations. And you know what works for Musalia? Musalia looks like he has weaknesses, but those are weaknesses also his strengths. And if you have a Musalia Kalonzo ticket with the support of Raila and Wetangula, will give Jubilee a nightmare. There will be pockets of resistance initially from around the Turkanas, around the Maasais because of the land issues, and a bit of cost. But once Raila manages, you know one thing about Raila is the only one who can transfer support. The other guys will really work to transfer their support. So that is a ticket that, one, it will cause some serious voter apathy in Central, because there's been quite a bit of disillusionment. You saw Nyeri, the numbers had refused until Jubilee had to deploy General Karangi. Even Karua went there and they had to put in resources. And still the numbers coming from Nyeri are not very good. So the people in Nyeri are not happy because Kibaki did so much for them, and the little that Kibaki left for them has all been taken away. So that is bound to be an issue too. Rift Valley, especially the Kalenjin wing. You can see the grumbling. William Ruto has mismanaged the politics there. And the Kanu orphans, the Moi orphans, have not had accommodation in Jubilee. So they will be more comfortable with the Musalia candidature because he was basically one of them. So they will very easily put in resources. And if you are able to hive off a section of the Kalenjin vote, it becomes very difficult for Jubilee to retain power.
Prof, let's hear your thoughts on that one. Raila being the most popular, but is he really the best candidate this time round?
Is any of them the best candidate?
Is any of them?
I don't think that when you're talking about the current political class who are angling for power, that the word best suits a description of any of them on both sides. And I have made the argument before that in 2013 we were told that it was a two-horse race. And I agreed. One horse was called the bad, the other horse was called the ugly, and we elected one of them. I don't know which one. In 2017, the bad has become badder the ugly has become uglier. So we have two choices again between the badder and the uglier. I don't know which one we are going to choose. So I don't think that the argument of who's best
But
arises.
whose fault is that? That we don't have a best candidate? Is it because of the people?
The narrative that has been pushed by the political class on both sides is one of tribalism. And therefore, it becomes very difficult to push in any other narrative in terms of performance, in terms of intelligence, in terms of policies, because our political space is gagged by a single political narrative, which is tribe. Whatever these guys are doing is doing the tribal arithmetic and trying to position themselves. And as far as the Kenyan political class is concerned, with the tribal narrative, anything, Betty, is possible. Anything is possible. Do not be surprised tomorrow when you hear that Kalonzo has decamped, or Wetangula has decamped, or Mudavadi has decamped, and the presidential candidate for Jubilee has changed. It is now Raila, and his running mate is Ruto.
Right.
After all, they were together in Kanu, all of them, under different configurations. They were together in the blood-soaked coalition government, all of them. And in that government, nobody was talking about corruption, nobody was talking about the people. And you know why? Because all of them were eating. Now, one group is inside, and it is overeating. Another group is outside, and it is overshouting. All they want to do is to exchange places. Yeah, is to exchange places. So I wouldn't make an argument of the better option when it comes to the political class in Kenya.
Martin, do you have anything to add to that? Martin mentioned earlier that the young voters right now, they're not looking into the tribal sense of everything, but they're looking at, I want a job. Yeah. I want to have money in my pocket. Yeah. Do you think that's going to be a factor this time round? Do you feel that Kenyans are more educated or, aware of what exactly they want and the kind of leaders they want?
Betty, politics is about narratives. And anything can be a narrative for so long as there is a group, an elite group that is pushing that narrative, and there is a base that is reacting or that is responding to that narrative. I agree with you that one of the alternative narratives that we could tease out in terms of confronting the ethnic narrative is that narrative that we have young people who are interested in jobs and who are interested in progress, who are interested in modernization. That is a potential alternative narrative. None of these people in the political arena has the motivation to push that kind of narrative because they're comfortable with the tribal one. That one guarantees them space, and it guarantees them an opportunity to do wheeler dealing with the other tribal kingpins.
Right.
So what we need are champions of new non-ethnic political narratives, and that could be one of them, and they are
to the voters, especially through the FM stations. But this election will still largely be won on the tribal arithmetic. With a little bit of the young voters who are non-tribal, they will determine if it goes into a runoff or not. But the real genuine election will be in 2022. That one will be fought on ideology, and it will also be fought on social media. It will be a major factor. But this one, the FM stations still have a role, and us versus them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the narrative is we are poor because we have not had power. We are where we are because these ones have excluded us. Okay. They have taken our opportunities. So there is a generation, and that's the way they have been socialized. So they don't know any other way out. So it's very difficult now for you to start telling them that this is not the way it is. Of course, the guys who wield power will want it to remain that way. So
Tribal.
that you can see. So what does that tell you? And when they are releasing the document, you will hear them talk about issues of gender. They will talk about issues of youth inclusivity. Right. But none of those guys is below 55. 55 issues of gender. Right. Yeah, and there are so many women who are qualified, including you here, who can sit in cabinet. For sure. So when they tell you that the president cannot comply with the law, and even the court has ruled on that, So that tells you the way they perceive things. They talk about what they talk about and what they practice. They practice totally different things. Or they like suspense. Yeah, they like it. And they are hogging all the limelight. So they will continue as long as you are giving them publicity. They will continue trying to buy time. But ultimately, they will unveil the candidate. And when they are...
Regardless of who it is, on both sides.
Right, on
because
both sides.
I've always said that there is no difference between Cod and Jubilee or NASA and Jubilee. The difference is that one is on the inside and they will run an administration that is as tribal and as ethnic as the one that they wanted to remove.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll be coming back to the discussion. But for now, I want us to just watch a clip. My colleague Patrick Amimo spoke earlier to the head of Court Secretariat.
Clauses on sharing of power. What it contains is our foundational principles on how we want to deal with the eagerness among Kenyans that these leaders pull together to save the country from the charade that is the Jubilee regime. And I can confirm that today marks the beginning of a very critical journey that will herald a new government come the 8th of August. We have no doubt in our mind that the roadmap we unveil from here today will culminate in a massive victory come the general election. So action. Remember that we have outstanding issues on the conduct of the election. That roadmap will be able to be provided by our leaders.
Some were shortchanged. This time round, what are Kenyans expected to see during this signing of this deal? Will it be made public?
I think one of the things you need to appreciate is that the coalition that is being put into place today is just an improvement of the Code coalition. And you remember that even after the election debacle in 2013, we have done something that, as what we are seeing here today, is not an agreement between individuals. It is a collective commitment by the principals to provide this country with alternatives. Even while we have been in the opposition, despite the many mechanizations by government, they were not able to break us. Coalition to ensure that it delivers to Kenyans what is contained in its manifesto.
The question begging out there among Kenyans, I think they are keen to know.
Framework that defines how we arrive at our flag bearer. And discussions are at a very advanced stage. The principals have bonded enough for the last 4 years. I have always said, and I want to repeat again, that the question of arriving at a flag bearer within the National Super Alliance is the easiest question that will be dispensed with. It is only a question of when, and that moment is coming.
Looking at it, there was talk that we might have a public rally after the signing agreement here, but are we still having...
All right, so that's my colleague Patrick Amimo there speaking to Norman Magaya. Remember that this morning we're focusing on NASA, which is set to sign that deal. And it's also the basis of our Twitter poll. We're asking you if you think the signing of the coalition agreement will actually guarantee unity in the National Super Alliance. We'd like to hear your thoughts on it. We've also been having a conversation here in studio around it, and we've discussed some. Officials say that drastic security measures are in place to prevent the inauguration of the 9th Somali President Farmajo. He was elected by lawmakers in Mogadishu on the 8th of February. We also understand that some of the updated on that developing.
I don't think that there is any other reason why we had voter apathy. This country is in a position where there was going to be transformation. And I agree with Andati when he says that the current election, the 2017 election, is insignificant because apart from the personal fortunes of the politicians, there is nothing at stake. The people are more disillusioned now than they have ever been, and they have looked at what the menu that they're being given by the political class on both sides, and they have decided if this is all that we are being offered, it is not worth our while. And I think that the problem of voter apathy lies squarely at the door of the political class, and until we do something about the current political class, I suspect that the whole electoral process is going to lose meaning going forward until something is done about the political class. And we are not going to be able to do something about the political class, Betty, until we confront the ethnic political narrative. Because this is the narrative that gives these guys a lifeline. If today the ethnic political narrative died, all these guys would be home tomorrow. They know nothing else, they have nothing else, and they have no value proposition outside of the ethnic political narrative. And that is why I say that the biggest challenge for a new generation today in this country is to get a new non-ethnic political narrative around which to mobilize. I liked it when Andati was saying, these guys are all men. Remember that the Constitution guaranteed the third gender.
Yeah.
Do these guys care? They don't care. Why don't they care? Because they have locked in the tribal narrative. And therefore, they don't care whether you're a man or a woman or whatever. And it's time for us to start looking from the margins and see what are the issues that we can bring on the table as the basis for a new political narrative. You mentioned, we've already mentioned in this show, the issue of youth disenfranchisement and employment. He has mentioned the issue of women. And there are as many possibilities for a new non-ethnic narrative as our imagination will allow us to come up with. But for so long as we believe that our options is only these guys, and for so long as we believe that the tribal narrative is unassailable, this is all we got. And that is why people are looking at it and thinking, I don't want to have anything to do with it.
To do with that. Martin, I mean, we have other candidates who've come out. They are technocrats or people who are, educated and different, bring something different. We have Philip Murgo. Ekuru Okot also hinted, he would like to take a stab at the presidency. Why won't we take them seriously? Then if we want to change the narrative ourselves.
Okot is doing his campaigns on WhatsApp. So, yeah, he is a friend, but I wouldn't take him seriously.
I mean, I've seen him in rallies in his hometown.
My mother is not on WhatsApp. So is my father and the rest of the fellows out there. So spending your time on WhatsApp and Facebook.
Martin, I think you're being unfair. I mean,
I'm telling you, that's the reality.
Rallies.
How many of them and where? Rallies of how many people? If you meet 10, 20 people and have a cup of tea, that's not how politics is mobilized here. Two, change is gradual.
Yeah.
And you cannot just wake up from the blues and tell these Kenyans that you want to be president. They'll ask you, who are you? Where have you come from? Those questions.
I mean, he is a Kenyan who took part
he's a Kenyan, but I'm telling you, even he has been talking about this Obama narrative. But Obama started as an MCA. The state legislature in Illinois, those are the MCAs there. The only issue he did is he managed to rise from an MCA to the president in 4 years. Yeah. But he didn't start as president. So, the Kenyans will also, and you don't start climbing a tree from the top. You start from bottom, So Kenyans will tell you, much as we are not happy with these ones, let's see what you can do. They want to entrust you with one of these positions, maybe as a governor or as a senator.
To see
to see what, they are conservative, So then if they see the performance is good and you are offering an alternative narrative, then it becomes very easy for them now to maybe for you to have a stab at the presidency. Of course, there are also issues of resources. Both monetary and otherwise, which you need to build.
Philip Murgo?
That comes in with networks.
Right.
Murgo, I've interacted with him, and he told me something very interesting, because I asked him, why do you want to be president? Then he told me they had issues with DP Ruto. He's the one who took Ruto to court when he was the director of public prosecutions. So he's very scared that if these guys retain power and Ruto were to take over, then he might...
So it's still not for the right reasons.
I looked at him and I laughed, because your only reason for seeking president is because you are scared that if this guy gets power, you prosecuted him. That is not a justification.
That's disturbing, Professor.
No, I'm telling you, that's the truth. And when you look at that, what Kenyans want is an alternative narrative, where, irrespective of where you come from, you can have an opportunity to go to school, you can have an opportunity to be able to become something in this country without putting tribal barriers. Of course, it's not going to be done overnight. And there are historical issues, and we'll not run away from those historical issues. But you've seen Raila talk about TJRC. If he became president today, he'll not implement it, because they are all in that report. You've seen the other ones who are beneficiaries of golden bar. So they will only demonize this because they are not in power.
They're not in power.
So Kenyans want the best opportunity. And I'm glad with what is happening in the small parties. Because even if Uhuru retains power with Ruto, they will not have a majority in parliament. You've seen it. You've seen even a sitting governor, Ragwa, leaving Jubilee to go to NARC Kenya. What does that tell you? That there is a gradual shift happening at the grassroots. So the same is going to happen even in ODM zones and the rest of these other places. You try to impose a candidate, the people vote against that candidate. So we will end up with majority of the MPs, senators, and governors from the so-called small parties.
Small parties.
Now that creates an opportunity for this country to come together in 2022 and elect a person who is not necessarily one of these four and who is not an insider who can genuinely bring genuine change in this country.
Professor.
Betty, I have no problem with Ekuro Okot. I have no problem with Murgo. Just like I had no problem with the other 6 candidates who are running in 2013 against Raila and Uhuru.
Right.
Politics is not about who. Trump has shown us that anybody can win. Politics is about what. What is the new narrative that you are bringing on the table? Trump had a narrative that resonated with a certain base. He understood that probably better than anybody else did, and when he won, people were in shock. I wasn't in shock. I had heard the narrative from the primaries, and I said, there were about 16 Republicans who were running. I listened to them, and I said, the only guy with a new narrative is this guy. When I listened to Ekuro Okot, when I listen to Murgo, they're fine gentlemen. Can they be president? Absolutely. I'm asking, where is your narrative? And who is your base? Because a narrative must resonate with a constitution, not with a constitution, with a constituency. Okay, what they call your base. Okay. For so long as I can't hear it from Ekuru, for so long as I can't hear it from Murgo, they will go the way of the other fringe candidates in 2013. Not because it is not possible, not because they are the wrong candidates, but because they do not have a new non-ethnic political narrative that resonates with a certain constituency. There is no constituency, and I hear them talking to Kenyans, there is no constituency called Kenyans. In politics, you have to identify who are you talking to. And that is why when they were registering for IEBC, you did not see Uhuru in Kisumu. And you did not see Raila in Nyeri, okay? Because the tribal narrative has its base. It has its constituency. So they were speaking to their constituency. I want Murgol to tell me, this is my message and this is my constituency. But when you come here, like the proverbial sower in the Bible, and you throw your seeds out there and hope that they will get a constituency, they will not get, because that is not how politics works. So my problem is not Murgor as a person. My problem is not Ekuru as a person. My problem is that I cannot hear an alternative, non-ethnic political narrative that mobilizes a sizable base. The only thing that new narrative needs to do is just to get 35% of, you don't even need to win. You just need to get 35% of the vote, and you will have thrown a spanner in the works, and all these tribal kingpins wouldn't know what to do. Because what we are now talking about, we are talking about absolute numbers divided by 2. If a third player with a new narrative that resonates with the people comes in and throws a spanner in the works and gets 30 to 35% of the vote, these guys are done. And these guys cannot change their narrative. Because remember, narrative comes with a constituency. You can't change your narrative because you will lose your constituency. So my challenge with the people who have said, they saw another one. There's the guy from Mungare, the guy from Kisii, who says, the senator from Kisii, who wants to, I want to hear as many Kenyans as there are running for the presidency. But the first thing I want to hear is, what is your new alternative, non-tribal political narrative? Because if your narrative is tribal, you are playing catch up. That narrative has its owners, and they are these ones, okay? So you cannot come in, for example, I had Ekuru saying that he wants to detribalize the country. That's a tribal narrative. Detribalizing itself a tribal narrative, and it has its owners here. Yeah. So a narrative that is going to give these guys a run for their money must be non-ethnic. It cannot be anti-ethnic. Okay. It must be non-ethnic. Have I had that kind of narrative from Ekuru? No. Have I had it from Murgor? No. And therefore, I make my decision on that basis, not on the basis of whether as people they are suitable or not. There.
Great. Let's go to the issue to do with nominations. Another headache right now for the IEBC, going back to the IEBC. What is your take? Martin, we had a conversation a few days ago. What is your take on this? Should IEBC, take on this new challenge? Already, IEBC's diaspora, Kenyans in the diaspora are angry at the IEBC. I mean, there's so many issues that they're dealing with right now.
I don't think it will be prudent because they are already running behind schedule on the timelines. So if they are going to get involved in the Jubilee primaries, it will give them a lot of problems, one. Two, there are bound to be issues of conflict because you remember the Letangula-led committee, which was presiding over the resolution of the disputes arising out of the nominations. The IEBC is supposed to form such a committee. So if they have supervised the nomination, how will they again form a committee which arbitrates on the disputes? So three, there are issues of financing because Duale has been saying that the Treasury should give the party money. But that is not in law, and Justice Matiba has given a ruling to that effect. So let them get the money from the political parties fund. And of course, they're collecting a lot of money from the aspirants and set up an election board and be able to carry out nominations. Of course, there will be issues of complaints, but they can form a tribunal to arbitrate on the complaints and see how they go. You see, when they were locking in the people, they never anticipated that. Now they are trying to transfer their problems to IEBC. Yeah, because they thought you use the law to try and fix those you don't like, so that once you are locked out, then they tell you, no, you will give you a job in government. But when you run for elective office, you are not necessarily looking for a job in government. So somebody rigging you out of a party nomination and telling you, we have got this opportunity here, it does not solve the problem. So let them sort out their mess. They created it. They have to sort it out.
Prof, don't you think that, these parties are just trying to have a sane, we've seen chaotic nominations in the past. Maybe there's just a way of, having a sane process for nominations.
You cannot have a sane process with Kenyan politicians. It is impossible. It's not going to happen. My problem with this discussion about IEBC holding nominations is the IEBC itself. I don't even know, Betty, why we are having this discussion. The IEBC needs to pronounce itself decisively on this issue and not entertain these kinds of discussions. Because when you hear Duale saying that it is their right to have their nominations done by IEBC, you ask yourself, what does the word independent in IEBC mean? If the IEBC is independent, they need to come out very, very strongly and say, we are independent, we are not going to get involved, we do not want to soil our reputation prior to the elections. When you entertain the average Kenyan politician, Betty, you are entertaining trouble. And I can tell the IEBC that the current IEBC, that they should not forget how the previous IEBC was hounded out. It was extrajudicial, it was done in the streets, and the politicians went and they crafted their own agreement and they kicked them out. Let the current IEBC know that there is no guarantee that they will run the August elections. The current IEBC. The political class in this country is so degenerate that for them, there is nothing that is... IEBC is making a time argument, for example. Okay? So what if the politicians say that the election is going to be next year in December? What will the IEBC give as a reason for not holding the nominations?
Right.
IEBC cannot make a time argument. IEBC cannot make a resources argument. IEBC must make an independence argument. We are an independent commission. We will take no instructions from a political party. We will meet no political party. We will make deals with no political party. We are an independent arbiter.
Okay.
For so long as they are dilly-dallying and they look undecided about that issue, they are going to be dragged into something that they will not believe by the political class, and the political class can even kick them out before August.
All right. I just want us to listen to a bite by legislator Ole Kenta. Let's just listen to that. He made these remarks over the weekend.
And in fact, I will request the professionals, so-called professionals, especially civil servants, they are on my side. Don't be misused by anybody. Take your job, do it, but don't come and tell us about why they elect the leaders then in Jubilee. 54 years of two communities leading and looting the country has destroyed this country. We need to recover this country for the sake of our children, and ODM is the only way to go. And ODM is actually the party to watch in Europe.
All right. I want us to wind up the conversation. And Martin, moving forward with the NASA coalition, what is it that you are expecting as a political analyst to see in the coming days?
They are signing the agreement. When they finish, they'll unveil the candidate. And there are very strong indications that the candidate is going to be Raila Odinga, deputized by Kalonzo Musyoka.
So there are no surprises.
So, and the question is, doing the same thing the same way, how do you expect different results?
Okay.
Because if you have Uhuru and Ruto on the other side, and you have these ones, you know, bringing in Musalia and saying now, you are baptizing it from code. You heard what Norman said, that they are strengthening code.
Okay.
But that's what he said. Those were his words. Of course, Jubilee has practiced politics of exclusion, and that is what my friend Ole Kenta is alluding to. And towards the end, they have tried to dish out a few jobs here and there. But look at the cabinet. You have 6 guys from one community. You have another 6 from the Kalenjin community. Then, look at even the dockets. You know, the ones who are from the other communities are given dockets which don't have a lot of weight. And now, towards the end, you pick a few parastatals, and you can pick a few andatis, and Professor is an conformist, you throw him in some place there. So, you know, Kenyans are not that daft.
Yeah.
You cannot do what Uhuru's father did in 1963.
Okay.
Kenyans were not as informed, and 2, they have not done well on the economic front.
All right.
And you can see the strikes every other day. The power of the purchasing power is gone, and Kenyans are feeling cheated. So, of course, there were distractions of ICC.
Right.
And we can give them a bit of benefit of doubt. But now, the ICC brought them together, and then the fear of Raila. So ICC is gone to some extent. Now, the fear of Raila, if Raila is the candidate, they will whip up emotions and try to use all means to retain power. You see now the incumbent.
All right. Yeah. Prof, your final very brief words?
In terms of what I expect?
Yes.
Absolutely nothing. This is the same cast. It is the same script. They are driven by politics of ethnicity, impunity, and mediocrity. So what do we expect? More ethnicity, more impunity, more mediocrity. Like he has said, you do not expect things to change if you're doing things the same way you are doing.
Right.
So expect a lot of drama, and finally, nothing will come out of it.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Professor Michael Wainaina and Martin Andati there. They have been speaking to us about this NASA deal that is being signed today. And I don't know if we're expecting nothing. Let's wait and see in regards to that. So we'll take